Welcome to the Midnight Train. We hope you enjoy your ride on the train tonight. For there is danger in Sleepy Hills. So by being aware of your surroundings, you can better enjoy the experience. Billy followed behind a woman who he knew from the church. A feeling of terror followed after Billy. He kept turning his head from the old lady's back and behind himself, and seeing himself die wasn't the worst thing that happened to him that last night. Running away from the howling sound and footsteps was an all-night affair. Hiding was an illusion, and yet climbing up a tree was an easier option considering the alternative. He thought being homeless was tough, but being a stray cat was far worse. Lucy's home was the fourth house he visited, and he was starting to lose hope. And yet she fed him, and was even trying to find out what had occurred last night. This is more than just a feeling of terror, though, which was slowly consuming him. Furthermore, the uncanny feeling that someone was watching him unnerved him when he looked behind a third time and was fairly sure he wasn't being followed. He turned forward and found that Lucy was much further ahead. Back to Margaret. She had just left with her rental car from the dealership. And although she felt a bit more comfortable about her car getting fixed under the table, she couldn't stop thinking about seeing that man bleeding like that on the ground. And what was protruding from his thigh disgusted her. At the nearest stop sign, she double-checked that her makeup looked good. As she looked at herself in the rearview mirror, she knew that she was wrong about lying and hiding her deeds. Moreover, she had a growing guilt and a fear of admitting her faults. In her mind, she would rather die than confess to what she had done. Pulling her eyes from herself and redirecting the rearview mirror to the rear, she peeled off in the car and was heading to her office. Further away, towards Sleepy Hill Elementary School, Bruce was dropping off Dylan and Abigail. Abigail landed a kiss on Bruce's cheek that always melted his heart. His two kids made him so proud, and at a different time in his life, he chased profits. The thrill of landing a sale or completing a major project was what brought a smile to his face. Now dropping off his kids at school brought a new smile. He traded the sports car for a minivan. Pulling away from the school, he wondered what would have life been like had he not settled down with Margaret. Wouldn't have my kids, and Margaret wouldn't be mine. The thought of that saddened him. As he drove away from the school and went on some back roads, he turned on a road called Summer Lane Boulevard. Driving past the old church, he noticed an older lady walking on the sidewalk with a big straw hat. "Oh, look," Bruce said with a smirk on his face, as a black cat was stalking behind the old lady. "Well," he said under his breath, "you don't see old ladies walking their cats every day." Slamming his foot on the accelerator, realizing that he was going to be late for work. However, he slowed down as fast as he sped up, due to the road level of disrepair. "I really don't understand why no one will challenge the mayor's next election," saying this with gritted teeth. As he drove around the debris on the street with visible skid marks on the road. Lucy was nearing the church as she saw the minivan racing by. In her mind, she was thankful that her life was slowing down as much as it did. Her furry friend had managed to beat her to the church grounds after the van drove past her. Billy got ahead of Lucy and knew that he had to do something, because all he could think of was the sensation of a tail fully erected, shaking furiously like a Geiger counter that found a nuclear payload was all too apparent. As he looked behind, Lucy was getting ever closer. Looking forward, the church was an old brick structure that was made in the early 1800s. A single church tower with a large bell was found to be at the right side of the two-story building of the church. The welcome sign to Sleepy Hills Catholic Church had an oily black paint for the lettering and a blinding amount of white to help the letters produce a 3D-like effect. The red bricks did have a few small plants growing between the cracks on the exterior, and the wide double doors to allow the public was in the same color of white as the entrance sign. To the right of the church, outside the rocky parking lot, was a grassy area where a large tree provided shade. There below the shady tree was approximately about 20 feet from the trunk was a stone bench. The stone bench that Lucy was heading for. For Billy, the bench was his second favorite place to go besides behind the welcome sign that conveniently had a thick bush. Lucy was less than 100 feet from the bench. While he darted his eyes in every direction, Billy thought to himself, would that thing be here? Lucy was closing in on the bench, and she was escaping the punishing sun. However, her furry friend was starting to panic at such a prospect. I wonder what he's so worried about, thought Lucy as she glanced around. The cat was a bag of nerves, but as she scanned the area, nothing stood out as a threat. As she focused on the church itself, she felt a gentle breeze blow by. Something just smells awful, she thought. The cat got in the way of the stone bench and was meowing up a storm, and even more so than when she first met the cat at the front door of her home this morning. The cat's tail was as stiff as a board and was waving it around like a baseball bat. She didn't want to kick her furry friend, but she needed a seat. And with great care, she gently pushed the cat away from her right to the bench. She placed her hand on the cat and gently stroked the cat to provide some comfort to him who was so much under stress. She sat on the bench and in need of a short rest to continue with her walk. The cat changed its tactics and began to circle the bench as if he was guarding her. Another gust of breeze passed by, and she got another whiff of that terrible smell. It was not a skunk, but then it struck her that she had smelled that smell before. It reminded her of a vacation she had gone with George. Driving through Death Valley and having a flat tire, George pulled over to replace the wheel. She stood outside the car waiting for George to finish the repair when a terrible smell made it to her nostril. Across the street, a dead black bird lay across. It looked like it had been dead for a while, and as she focused her attention on the bird, a maggot crawled outside of its eye. The sight of that caused her to retreat back into the car. As the memory faded from her mind, the current smell appeared to be growing stronger. And that concludes our episode for today on the midnight train to Sleepy Hills. please stay tuned next week for our next episode and follow the journey of what occurs in the town of Sleepy Hills. You sleep